How about that cigar?
How about that?
Oh, we're punchy, guys.
Oh.
It's Tuesday night. We are back in the Drew Estate Studios.
Tease.
And I'm making funny faces. We are a little punchy because it's lockdown time. But this is episode number 52 of How About That Cigar Live. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in on Facebook Live or on YouTube Live. We thank you so much for spending some time with us. If you're listening after the fact on the audio podcast, thanks so much for listening to us while you work out or drive down the road or whatever it is you do when you listen to audio podcasts. We want to thank, as always, our sponsor of the studio, and that is Drew Estate. They want to announce the unveiling of the 2020 Herrera Esteli TAA exclusive release. It is a 6x52 Toro featuring a rich Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, bold Brazilian Matafita binder, and lush Nicaraguan fillers. Blended by Drew Estate Master Blender Willie Herrera exclusively for the TAA. This cigar is a testament to the complexity and quality behind the Herrera Esteli line. Drew Estate Master Blender Willie Herrera said of the new blend, "My goal with this blend was to take the lush Connecticut broadleaf Capa tobacco and apply my Miami style to the blend. This cigar shines right from the cold draw and gets better with every puff. I'm thrilled that now the boxes match the rest of the Herrera lineup. They will pop off the shelves."
Pop.
The Herrera Esteli TAA exclusive is packaged in 12-count boxes with a total of 800 boxes produced. For more info, please visit drewestate.com. So, Garrett, like I said at the start, we're a little punchy this evening. You know, everybody's
Turtles breathe out their butt.
Turtles breathe out their butt. Is that from one of your trivia contests this week?
No, that is from the 12th time I've seen Frozen 2.
Oh, Frozen 2. I only saw it once. So, and once was enough for me. So,
no, I want to thank Olaf for that piece of. Yeah, good one.
So all of you guys watching and listening, I know you're in the same boat as we are. It's just one of those times we live in this really strange time where we're locked down. We're stuck inside. I mean, you can go out, walk the dog and things like that. But, you know, just as far as sort of every day, we're used to being able to go out and as cigar people go out to the shops and interact with people and stuff like that. And we kind of have to, you know, do it virtually. And, you know, there's so many people having virtual herfs on Zoom, which I love. I encourage people to keep doing that and doing it on Facebook and stuff like that.
We actually, so we took away half of the dishes that we have in our house because we quickly learned within, you know, a few days of all this, it's like, oh my gosh, I just did all of the dishes yesterday and again today. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, because obviously we're eating at home several times. It's, you know, the dishes are piling up like crazy. And it's like, all right, you get one plate, you get one bowl, you get a fork and a spoon, and that's it.
Well, and we just, I was telling Garrett this earlier, we just today, a brand new Chipotle opened here in little old Forest Lake, Minnesota. And it's a tough time for a brand new restaurant to open up, but it's Chipotle, people. I mean, you know, they're fine. They're fine. So, and the great thing is right away, we were able to go. My wife went on the app and ordered it, and they delivered it right to the house. So we had Chipotle for lunch today. But guys, if you're out there, you know, just do whatever you can to, you know, keep yourselves positive and, you know, don't stress out about this too much. And, you know, although we can't go to the cigar shops and hang out with our friends, you know, you can still participate and be an active member of the cigar community. So get out there on Facebook or the forums and participate, you know, get on some VHERFs and, you know, just do everything you can to just keep the cigar community going. There are some cigar shops that are still doing curbside pickup where you can order on the phone and pick up. If that's available, you know, do that. But most of the cigar shops that I know of are closed right now just until the, you know, the shelter in place gets lifted and things like that. So, you know, just encourage you guys to stay involved in the cigar community as a whole. We have a great special guest tonight. We're very excited. We tried to have him on a few months ago, but things kind of went a little technically south, but that's all good. We're very excited to have him on the show tonight. Please welcome from Aganorsa Leaf, Terence Reilly. Terence, welcome to How About That Cigar Live. How's it going, brother?
Oh, I'm just living the dream. Thank you for having me, guys.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you on the show. And you are coming to us from sunny, hopefully sunny, well, not sunny because it's nighttime, but beautiful and warm Coral Gables, Florida. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, it's the weather's been very beautiful. Today was a bit hot, but up the last couple of weeks overall have been really nice, which makes all this a little bit easier.
Yeah. So, Terence, tell us, while you are sitting out on your patio, tell us about what you have fired up to smoke along with us tonight.
Well, I'm smoking one of our Aganorsa Leaf signature Maduros, which is, there we go, I'm getting the camera there. This is a cigar that comes out a couple times a year. It's what we call allotment releases. It's special for a couple of reasons. One is it uses our proprietary shade-grown Corojo Maduro wrapper. Most people use San Andres or broadleaf, of course, for Maduro. But we actually, in Jalapa, have some acreage under cheesecloth up there. And usually you'd associate shade with, Connecticut shade, a lighter wrapper. But we use higher primings and ferment for a longer period of time with the thicker leaf. And it gives that dark Maduro hue, but it's still a Corojo wrapper. So that's really interesting about it. And we also use a little bit of medio tiempo in the blend. And to give you an idea, with medio tiempo, out of 14,000 bales we harvest every year, 50 to 80 are medio tiempo. And it's a temperamental leaf. It's a strange looking leaf. It's a smaller leaf. It's thick like alligator skin. And there's not a lot of it, and it can be inconsistent. So there's a little bit of that in there as well.
Okay. And we appreciate you sent a few of these to us to try. Mm-hmm. And we're firing up the, I believe this is the Corona Gorda size, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
And for those who are watching and listening, if you don't know, I actually reviewed the Toro size of this cigar on howaboutthatcigar.com recently, and it scored very nicely at a 91. It's a very nice cigar. But this, and I was telling Terence before we went live, this particular Vitola in the Corona Gorda is very much in our wheelhouse. So we're very excited to fire this one up right now.
Yeah, and I know that cheesecloths are kind of a standard thing for a lot of leaves. I'm wondering if anyone has tried a cheese wheel. Let's grow some tobacco under cheese wheels and just see what happens.
Maybe in Wisconsin.
There you go. Yeah,
that'd be the place.
In Wisconsin, they tried it, I think, but the cheese fell down and crushed the tobacco plants. So doesn't work very well.
Bummer.
Can't win them all.
Can't win. Yeah. Think outside of the box.
If they're going to figure it out, Wisconsin is where they will figure out how to actually hang cheese over
anything.
Anything pretty much. They do it at football games all the time. So Terence, tell us about. Give us a little bit of an idea about that first time that you sat down and fired up a premium cigar, and how that, through whatever means, how that led to you becoming somebody who really enjoyed and loved premium cigars, and then how that continued to lead into a career in the industry.
So the first time I had a premium cigar, I was younger, and I spent the summer in Dominican Republic. My uncle is a gentleman named Manuel Quesada. He's known for Nat Sherman, the Casa Magna brands that they make in Nicaragua, Quesada brands, obviously. And I decided, I'm out of school for a little bit. I'll go down and work in the factory and have a good time in Dominican Republic. But I didn't smoke cigars. I just wanted to go down and have some fun. And while I was down there, I went over, the first weekend, I went over for a Sunday dinner with my uncle, and we were all there with my cousins and everything. And after dinner, they said, "Hey, would you like to have a cigar?" And I didn't smoke, and I was always against cigarettes and everything like that. And he said, "Well, try this petite." It was a Petite Corona Fonseca Vintage, is what it was.
Oh,
and I lit that up. And I enjoyed it, but what I enjoyed even more was just the whole experience of it. We were playing cards. At the time, we were on a big Añejo tequila kick, and we were drinking some Don Julio Añejo, and and then between that and then working in the factory, where you just see how much cigars don't look like the Mona Lisa necessarily, but when you see the work that goes into them, it's amazing how many people are involved to make it come out right at the prices that they're at. I mean, if you
Yeah.
consider the taxes and everything else too in there, it's even more of a miracle because it takes one person to screw it up. I mean, if the person puts on the band with too much glue and you take it off and it tears the wrapper, the consumer doesn't say, oh, you know, this was really well, you know, blended and the tobaccos are aged. They just didn't put the wrapper, the band on well. Well, then the guy just goes, "Nah, this is a bad cigar," and that's it. And that could be it for you. You may never try your product again. So, so it's amazing how much work goes into it. So that was really kind of my first endeavor into the industry.
Yeah, and tell us about when you made the transition over to Casa Fernandez.
Sure.
And then you know how Casa Fernandez transformed into as we know it now, Aganorsa Leaf.
Sure. So when I left Casada, I left without any sort of exit strategy. Really, I decided that it was time to pursue other things, and I just kind of spent a month interviewing with some different companies, and I was very blessed to be able to speak to some really incredible companies in this industry. And the reason I ended up with Casa Fernandez at the time is I thought it was for me the most opportunity to really play a role in building them. And the reason for that is I thought the blends were incredible, but really they weren't well known, and the packaging was really not well done, and it didn't tie together. And so the best cigar you've never heard of is one you don't smoke. But that's somewhat of an easier fix than if there's an issue with the cigars, or if there's other ways that they're marketing the company or whatever else. I can't, for instance, if there's a problem with the cigars at the factory, like they're not using aged tobacco or something like that, I can't really do anything about that. I go to the factory a couple times a year, but that doesn't really allow you to solve anything. So for me, it was a problem that I could contribute to fixing, and that's what really appealed to me.
Now, so you haven't been on our show, but it's a little bit like Quentin Tarantino. We jump around a lot.
I'm just going to go with the flow. Do what you got.
Right on, man. So, are you still a consumer of different cigars, or are you
absolutely? I'm first and foremost an enjoyer of cigars.
Love it.
And funny. It's funny way. I have to change hats when we do that. If you're talking about things that I personally like and things that that's one hat, and then there's as the person that works in the company, for instance, like people love Lanceros. It's not my favorite size, but I enjoy a Lancero, especially if I have the time to enjoy a Lancero. Lanceros don't really sell; they don't sell that well, and so when you're coming.
To Garrett, they do.
They do to me.
Yeah, they do to you. Well, unfortunately, all we need to do is clone about a million of you. It would be perfect. I'd make them all day. But so when you're coming out with a brand, you have to say things like, okay, I love a Lancero, but if shelf space is tough, it's a competitive market.
Yep.
What's the best way to succeed? Is that with the Lancero? Now, there's some instances where that makes sense. There's some store exclusives and things like that, and some lines that. Where the line in itself appeals to that type of consumer. But you have to think of those things. It can't simply be, oh, I like a Lancero. We'll come out with a Lancero,
So when you walk into a new humidor, what's your process like? What are the things being, the business that you're in? I know that I have my own process that I go through when I walk into a new humidor, but how about you? When you walk into a new humidor, what's your experience like?
And I'm as a consumer, you mean?
Yeah, as a consumer.
Okay. So in that one,
if you're wearing a hat,
that one's a little bit tougher, only because I like analyzing how things are set up.
Where am I going to put my stuff? Yep.
And also even taking like our own product out, like their process. So does anyone come up and speak to me? When they do come up and speak to me, what do they say? Like, how do they narrow down my choice and things like that? So that part, it's hard to separate. But I tend to try not to overthink it if I can, in terms of if I'm just in there by myself and just walk around. What catches my eye? Why does it catch my eye? Okay, and what are the factors that make it interesting to me? Part of it, who made it? That is obviously always an interesting part for me as somebody as somebody that enjoys cigars and has a fair amount of knowledge of the different factories and all that kind of thing. I also try to think like how somebody that doesn't really know that much, what would be, attractive to them, what would catch their eye. And that goes into packaging, how it's presented. I mean, I always use a great example. I mean, Perdomo does an amazing job presentation wise. Anytime I walk in a humidor, I always notice them because of how they display and the information they put on the boxes, and it's really very well thought out. And so that's an example of something that, okay, well, look, that's eye catching. So, but those are the types of things I kind of do.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting about that question is one of the things that I always do is, first of all, I walk around the humidor to see, how well organized it is, and if it's messy, if it's moldy, stuff like that. But I always look at the floor first. And the reason is I've had so many experiences over the last many years where you find a lot of hidden gems on the floor. If they're overstocked in certain things, if they pull in new product and need to make shelf space for it, a lot of times just out of being in a rush or whatever, they'll take whatever product used to be on the shelf and they'll put it on the floor. And a lot of times that product gets lost. And it'll get on the floor, kind of tucked under 5 or 6 other boxes. And you can really find some good hidden gems, stuff that's, maybe been off the market for a while, or cigars that are supposedly hard to find, that all of a sudden, they got 2 boxes on the floor hidden behind these, these house blend bundles or whatever, because they ran out of space for it. So I always start on the floor and work my way up.
There's 2 types of shops like that. There's shops where that's somewhat intentional, and there's shops where it's unintentional. So there's off the top of my head, I can think of a store where I go to where the guy has bought 2 boxes of every cigar ever made, I think. And so he has all this stuff that like he doesn't even, it's been there for 10 years, 15 years in some cases. And that's, you kind of go treasure hunting, and you look at, like you said, look on the floor, look behind other boxes, and you see, oh, look what this I found. And there's a few stores like that. And then there's some stores where it's intentional. Like you'll go in there, and then if you ask somebody, it's like, hey, where do they keep he's like, oh, he's got some old this back here. And so then you go look, and he's like, or they have it behind, something else where they actually know where the stuff is, and they know what they actually have. And they, if somebody has that type of interest, they'll point it out to them. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun, sometimes being able to find, stuff that you had forgotten about. We'll do the flashback reviews on How About That Cigar, and you find a cigar that you haven't smoked in 10 or 15 or 20 years, and that still happens to be a staple brand that's on the shelf, and you realize, oh man, I haven't had one of those in forever. So I find myself every once in a while saying, I'm going to grab a couple of those and see what they're like in 2020 versus what they were like in 2002.
Yeah, and the reason why I started bringing this up is my cousin hit me up earlier today, and he's had some cigars in the past, and he reached out to me and he said, where do you get your cigars, and what does that look like, and I just started thinking, man, to be in that place again, with an unbiased,
a blank sheet,
oh my gosh. And to look at some of the cigars now that I look at, and we're like, I'm not touching that, but, to be able to just go and try things and enjoy that again. I wish that I could go back to that place and be there. So I'm a bit envious of that, but, I would say, for those who are out there wondering where to get their cigars, what to do is, Facebook and social media has been an amazing place to get with other people, especially right now in this situation that we're in with all the virtual herfs that are going on. But asking the questions, hey, I'm in this area. Where do you guys get your cigars? Because word of mouth is huge, and it's
key.
Everything.
Literally, it's everything.
Yeah.
That's honestly all that my job essentially is to get people excited about the product. in a genuine way.
Absolutely.
So because at the end of the day, the only metric of success is the consumer's passion for the product. When the consumer has passion for the product, they recommend it to other people, and they recommend it in a way. We were talking off the air about that show, Tiger. Is it Tiger King? Is that what it is?
Tiger King.
Yeah. So Tiger King, like, I'm intrigued to see it simply because I can't tell you how many people have been like, "Oh my God, you got to see the show," or "Oh, be careful seeing the show, it's crazy," So it's that enthusiasm. If somebody just sits there and goes, we got these cigars and they're very flavorful, and we grow tobacco. I could be saying everything is true, but
right?
Does that make anyone really want to go out and pick some up? It's not really. You have to have that. And again, you can only, in the long term, and especially now with so many easy ways to check, you have to do it in a genuine way, and it's got to be a real thing. Not we got tobacco from Castro's beard, and we fermented it in a nuclear reactor in North Korea, and that's
totally. I believe everything you just said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is your business strategy about getting consumers excited about your product? Do you find do you do events, and are those successful? What does that look like for you guys?
So education is really the key thing for us. There's generally three types of strategies for how people kind of differentiate themselves. This is an oversimplification, but there's kind of cult of personality companies. You think of a company and you think of the owner and his charisma and his personality and who he is, and that's very much associated with the brand, and that's kind of what makes that brand stand out. And then there's lifestyle based companies, like you think of, for instance, who owns Davidoff? Who knows? But like immediately when you think of Davidoff, you think of the luxury, you think of that lifestyle, you think of that kind of the suit and the nice watch, and that's another way to kind of differentiate yourself. And the third way is product based, where there's something about the product itself that's special. And for us, it's the leaf we grow, and that's what makes us special. We're not that the most interesting people in the world, and it's not we're not cultivating a lifestyle other than the general lifestyle of cigars. We grow two different seeds of tobacco, Corojo and Criollo, in Nicaragua, and some of the best fields in the country, and we process it in a way that in blend that makes it contain a signature flavor, and that signature flavor is what makes it special. And what we'll do, I'll even start it up here. We at our events we bring fumas. This is a Corojo 99 fuma from Jalapa, and this is a Viso leaf. Corojo 99, as I just said, is one of our signature seed varietals, and it's also not commonly grown in Nicaragua. I can't think of anyone else that grows it on any type of capacity, and certainly not the capacity that we grow. And so this is in almost every blend that we do is Corojo. In fact, I can't think of a blend that it's not in. And this is the Jalapa version of it, which is, again, in some Jalapa tobacco is in pretty much every blend we do. So this is one of our key components. And so we'll have people actually smoke this, which I'll do right here.
And while you're doing that, it's interesting. One of our viewers, Quentin, good friend of ours as well, said the leaf tasting event you did with them was amazing.
Well, thank you, sir.
Is that kind of what you're doing right now?
Yeah, basically, I'm doing what we do. We do this as staff training. We do this with the guys that are in the trenches out there going in the humidor, and we do it for events, and we do it in more formalized settings where people sit down and we do a whole presentation, and we also do it very matter of factly. Hey, do you have 5 minutes? We basically, again, it's two tobaccos from two regions, and then we have you smoke them individually. Taste, and again, we don't get into butterscotch and pecan pie and all this stuff. It's like our Corojo 99, for instance, which I'm smoking here. It makes you salivate. It hits you right on the sides of the mouth, and it's going to have some subtle spice up in the front of the palate, and then through the retrohale, and then you're also going to get a lingering sweetness. And people taste that. Like, it's not like, again, as I said, a bunch of crazy stuff. And then we'll go over the Corojo that I'll smoke in a minute, and then we combine them. And you see how that's kind of the backbone of our flavor profile. And if you like that, you're going to love Aganorsa. And if you don't, for whatever reason, there's lots of other great cigars out there. But doing that rather than just simply saying, hey, buy some cigars, I'll give you a free one. Or, hey, we're not trying to sell people. We're trying to educate them. We're not selling yachts here. So there's no reason to sell somebody something that they're not going to enjoy. And the best way to convince somebody that they're going to enjoy it is to give them the opportunity to experience it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's great because we really, this show, and the website's really all about our number one goal is consumer focused education about premium cigars, about premium tobacco, where it comes from, how it's made, how to smoke it, how to store it better, how to be a better member of the cigar community, all that stuff and everything in between. And one of the things that I wanted to find out about, because with, like you were mentioning, different strategies, the cult of personality and the product centered and the other ones, when it comes to the actual blending of the cigars and working with the different tobaccos to put the blends together, for Aganorsa Leaf, it really comes down to Max and Eduardo when it comes to, the tobacco and the blends. And give us an idea of how the blending process is handled and who has input into the blending process and what that looks like for Aganorsa Leaf.
So yeah, Max and Eduardo have final say in everything, and they're crucial, obviously. But we also have a team. So we for many years we had Arsenio Ramos, who passed away tragically 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
And he was a guy that was like head of fermentation for Cuba tobacco. He wasn't some person that they pulled off the streets of Havana and said, "You're a Cuban guy, you can blend our cigars." He was intimately involved in Cuban tobacco for, I think, like half a century. And then he came to work for us for the last 20 or so years of his life. And so he was obviously very heavily involved in the blending process. We also have several other guys, Cuban people involved, including Jacinto Iglesias, who's very well involved. Yamil Tavares, who's another guy who's involved. Paul Palmer in our office in Miami, he's involved. So what we kind of do is, the way I like to do things is to put out an idea and say, I think there's two different ways you can kind of blend stuff. You can either kind of just sit down, and this is fun, but I think it's less efficient, is like, it just kind of figure out, smoke different things and see what you like. And then eventually something comes out of that. I think that's difficult because it's kind of like when you go to the bar and you ask the bartender, "Hey, what should I drink?" Well, scotch, bourbon, beer, wine, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go and have something good, but it's hard for that person to narrow it down because you're giving them so many options. Whereas if you say, "Hey, I'm really looking for something that's rich and full-bodied, but balanced," now you've narrowed the direction. And so we kind of take that approach where it's like, okay, this is an area that we have an opportunity within our portfolio. This is what we kind of want, and then we'll work on the blends, and that team down there puts things together, and we all smoke and see what we like, and then Eduardo and Max sign off on it at the end.
Okay. Because with every company, it's a little bit different when it comes to that blending and choosing final blends. And I always love hearing about the stories of the way that different companies do it. I think in my experience, more input is always good to a point, but it sounds like there's a lot of good palates, obviously good palates and good experience there at Aganorsa Leaf putting together those blends.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of knows their strengths and what they do. Like, I tend to know more about the market. I'm not sitting there saying, you know what, you really need to take more Viso from Chilamate and Esteli. I'm not telling them that. I'm saying this is where we want to go. This is what I think the market is looking for.
Yeah,
let's do that. And then they're not trying to tell me, hey, it would really work well in the U.S. market. They don't necessarily have as much familiarity with that. They know about tobacco, so it works well. Everyone kind of has a role, and it creates something great.
This cigar,
it's so good. This signature. I mean,
I want to punch a baby seal right now. It is so good.
That's our new tagline.
You can use it.
Punch a baby, or what about a baby tiger?
Or
sorry, that's no more Tiger King references.
Where is the spice coming from on this? Because it's perfect.
So I just lit up our Criollo 98 Esteli. For the Criollo 98 Esteli is not as much as the spice as you would think, because you think Esteli, the volcanic earth.
Mhm.
The Criollo 98 gives more earth. It's got a grittiness. Even like if you take your tongue, rub it to the roof of your mouth, you'll get a salty taste, which you should even get with that cigar.
Yep.
The spice is more from the Corojo. The Corojo. It's not aggressive spice.
No.
But it's definitely, you got that spicy, picante, I guess is the word in Spanish. It's got that spice, but it's not aggressive. It's not harsh.
And I would say it's like when people ask for spicy food in Minnesota.
Yeah.
That is what this spice is like. It is just a mild little tickle.
Yeah, we call ketchup Minnesota hot sauce.
Yeah.
Because there's people up here who can't even handle Tabasco sauce. They take one dot of Tabasco sauce on a tortilla chip and they act like they're going to die.
Well, my mom can't even handle the chicken at Chipotle.
Wow.
Like,
oh wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it all comes down to experience, but
yep.
I really am getting the differences now because that's one of the cool things also about Vitolas and different cigar sizes is, this versus the Toro that I reviewed a few weeks ago. As similar as they are, there are definitely differences there. You're
changing ratio of wrapper to fillers and things.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the spice on this one, on this size, although it's still very well balanced, the spice is a little bit more intense, especially on the retrohale through the nose. It's got that pop, that sort of I don't want to use the word burn because that's not the word, but just that sort of power through the nose.
No, through the nose, it definitely. In fact, I almost feel that a lot of our cigars, I almost feel you're missing out. I mean, and I think that's true in general, but for us, I think you're not really enjoying it the way you should if you're not retrohaling. I always joke that Michael Herklatz from Nat Sherman a long time told me a story about a guy that would go into when he was at Davidoff in Madison Avenue in New York, and he would buy like a $30 Series R or something like that, and he would go out in the street and he would eat the cigar.
What?
So once you buy the cigar, you get to do whatever you want with it. But if you're not retrohaling, I feel you're missing out. So I always encourage people, because that's what blenders do. And when the blender is blending, he's retrohaling. And so if you want to know what the blender was really going for, you kind of need to do that. And for us, because that spice is much more prominent through the retrohale, I feel you're missing out if you don't do that.
How great would that be if you just walk into a shop and you buy like a 7x60 and you just sit down and you just start working it like a corn dog?
I'm telling you, I'm not doing the story justice. If you talk to Michael Herklatz, ask him about that.
I cannot wait to hear that story.
I've got to ask him that story.
Yeah.
So give us an idea about we've talked about, the signature Maduro, which we're smoking right now, but we want to give the viewers and listeners, if they haven't had a chance yet to experience Aganorsa Leaf cigars, we want to give them a little bit of an idea about the core lines that they can find either through their online cigar vendors or through their, fortunately, when everybody reopens soon, find on their brick and mortar cigar shelves.
Sure. And so this is where our FUMA experiences, if when things open back up and we can do some events, if you see we have an event somewhere to definitely partake. Because it's a lot easier to make recommendations after they've done the FUMA experiences. So if you see me here now, I'm doing the Cheech and Chong thing where I'm smoking both at the same time.
Yeah.
And that allows you to see how the flavors of the two combine to create a whole new complex, more nuanced, more balanced flavor. So some guys will say, though, I really like the notes from the Corojo more. Okay, so you like the Corojo more. Our Guardian of the Farm, the natural, the original, is very Corojo dominant, really flavorful. Our Aganorsa Leaf, Casa Fernandez Aganorsa Leaf Corojo, that's very Corojo dominant, great cigar. Our JFR, if you're looking for that everyday cigar, that's honestly I feel the best value you can get out there. That's the Corojo is very dominant in that as well. And then if you like the Criollo more, our Aganorsa Leaf Maduro, our Maduros tend to be more Criollo dominant for the most part. And then even, oddly, our Connecticut has a good amount of Criollo in there. It's got a lot more body to it than you would get in most Connecticut cigars, but still being very balanced. I think sometimes the trick with Connecticut is the old school Connecticut is very mild. It can be kind of papery, or can even be kind of bitter in some ways with the Connecticut wrapper, or they try to jack it up and it becomes kind of unbalanced, but strong. And we're very proud of the Connecticut's that we do, that they kind of have that nice combination of flavor and intensity without losing the balance.
Yeah. What Connecticut do you use?
Ecuador, Connecticut.
Okay.
So if you had to, we've been asking this for the last couple of weeks to everybody on the show, but if you had to pick one of the lines from Aganorsa Leaf, to that proverbial, desert island cigar, if you were stranded and could only have 100 boxes of one of the, just for your palate, your
Sure.
everyday smoke, what would it be?
It would probably be, it's a brand we're not as well known for, but it's one of my favorites. It's called Buena Cosecha. It's a brand that it's very Corojo dominant. It's incredibly flavorful. I think almost all the tobaccos come from Jalapa. And that's, for me, in fact, it's actually one of the cigars that made me join the company, because when I sat down for an interview, they handed it to me. And at the time, it had kind of like, it looked like, I don't know, a band from a Chinese restaurant or something. It just had a very odd band to it. And it kind of looked.
And he froze.
Oh, sorry. Could you say that last part again? We had you freeze up for a second.
Oh, sorry. So the band on the Buena Cosecha looked like something out of a Chinese restaurant, and it just didn't look. I mean, it didn't look appealing. I didn't, and it was funny because when I would first hand the cigar to other people, I would get the same kind of look. They'd be like, "This is what you're handing me," but when you lit it up, it was excellent. Yeah. And we have changed the band on it to bring it in line to everything else. But it was a good example of the company where it had this really incredible tobacco and these incredible brands that just didn't come across well. And so it's kind of got a sweet spot to me as well. But the box press torpedo, that would probably be the cigar I would pick. Okay.
So we talked a little bit about this before we went live, but everything going on with COVID-19, the shelter in place, the lockdown, stuff like that. We don't know what the future is going to bring, but we're hopeful, of course, that there's going to be a PCA organization trade show in July, as it's originally been scheduled for. If the trade show does happen, do you guys plan on exhibiting at the trade show?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the plan. I think we're still pretty far out from it, and we'll see what happens. But right now we're par for the course. We're just going to move forward and take it day by day and see what happens. But we're planning on being there.
Yeah, definitely hopeful that it happens. If so, and this is a question that I've been curious about since even back a few months ago when the announcement about some companies choosing not to go, and I've been curious about, so not just for them but for every company, if let's say the trade show doesn't happen, which obviously we don't want that, we want it to go on, but if it doesn't happen, what are the strategies for you, and what do you think is important to the cigar industry as a whole to make up the ground that typically gets accomplished at a trade show like that?
That's the $1 million question.
I
think there's maybe some ideas will come out of this next month and in the last couple of weeks, where you have something virtual where you set up a time and you have people come in and you talk about the cigars and they can ask questions about it. There's things like that you could potentially do. Obviously, travel would change. Everyone's kind of not traveling the couple weeks before and the couple weeks after, or at least the week before, and then usually the couple weeks after. Or if you are traveling, you're going to visit accounts that didn't go to the show, which we don't attend. So there'd probably be more traveling. We'll maybe do some virtual stuff. But it's tough, it's one of the few opportunities every year where you get to spend some time with a lot of people that would be hard to see all in 1 week otherwise. So it's definitely going to be a challenge.
Okay. Yeah. And that's understandable. That's one of the, obviously, one of the big reasons that we hope just for the industry as a whole
Mhm.
and for the cigar culture as a whole, I think the trade show is beneficial to everybody involved, from the consumers. Even though it's not a consumer show, in the end, it ends up benefiting the consumers greatly. So I hope definitely that the show goes on.
Yeah, from your mouth to God's ears.
So
That's right. Has it ever been canceled that you
I don't
guys
think
know
so.
of?
not
The
that
only
I'm
time I know Katrina came right after it one year. It was
Right.
it was a few weeks after they had it, but I can't think of any example where it's ever been canceled. It's also been going on for about 100 years, so maybe back in the early days, maybe, but I can't think of any time in the past
So we're
30 or 40 years.
uncharted waters in modern history, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you guys have, and no specifics, I wouldn't ask you to divulge that, but do you guys have any new projects in the works?
Yeah, we have a couple of things. We had at TP this past January. We had our Supreme Leaf, which we released, which did really phenomenally well, and so we're going to have another size of that at PCA. I've been posting some pictures of a brand that we've redone called Lunatic Torch, where it's a brush foot where the wrapper's removed from the first half inch, so you're tasting our fillers before you get to the main, the wrapper of the cigar, and you kind of see how that changes the complexity and contributes to it. So we're excited about that, and we got a couple other things that we have in the works. But we'll see how this all plays out. Maybe, if we have to, we'll kind of break those releases up if we have to. But that's what we're planning to right now, is have them at the show.
And Castro's beard, when is that coming out?
Yeah. Not anytime soon. Soon. Yeah, it's too hard to get away with making stuff up anymore. It's pretty. It's a quick Google search can prove most things. True or not.
Somebody's definitely got that one copywritten already. They have to.
I'm sure.
I
know if they don't, I should look it up. That's
absolutely. So we're going to move now into this week's Smokabulary word. And as always, our Smokabulary word is brought to you by AJ Fernandez. Born and raised in Cuba, AJ Fernandez now produces unparalleled premium cigars in Esteli, Nicaragua. The day-to-day operations at Tabacalera AJ Fernandez are managed under the watchful eye of Mr. Fernandez himself in order to ensure superior quality. The AJ Fernandez portfolio of premium cigars provides blend, strength, and flavor profiles to match the preferences of any premium cigar consumer. Whether it's New World, Dias de Gloria, San Latano, Enclave, or Bellas Artes, you are sure to be satisfied with a premium cigar from AJ Fernandez. So, guys, this week's Smokabulary word is mazo.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mazo Tov.
Terence, mazo tov. Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Terence, you are familiar, of course, with the word mazo as it relates to the world of premium cigars.
It's a bundle.
It's a bundle. That's basically it. And it's funny because there are a lot of words that I find in that are used in the premium cigar industry and in the cigar history that don't directly translate to their Spanish counterpart. Because the word mazo means mallet.
Really?
So
I didn't know that.
yeah, I didn't know either until I looked it up today. It actually means mallet, but in the cigar world, it's just a bundle. Instead of putting cigars in a box, you put them in a bundle. Yeah. And it can reduce the overall cost to the consumer and things like that. But
did you look into the history of that?
Into the history of the mazo? No.
Yeah.
The etymology of the world?
Yeah.
I did not. I didn't go all.
You didn't dive?
I didn't go full James Lipton. But that is this week's Smokabulary word. And should we do this, Garrett?
Oh yeah.
Should we? Okay.
I think we should.
It is time for this week's
Numero de los Muertos.
As always, brought to you by
Oveja Negra Brands brings you premium smoking experiences forged from tobacco, time, and talent. Comprised of Black Label Trading Company, Blackwork Studio, Dissident, and Emilio. Oveja Negra Brands provide smokers uncompromising blends renowned for their flavor and lasting impression. Oveja Negra, where art and tobacco collide. Join the flock. Visit ovejanegracigars.com to learn more.
So hit us with the number.
The number comes from North America only, US and Canada. And that number is 15 people a year die from this.
Okay.
It sends about 15,000 people to the ER every year.
Okay.
But only 15 people fall victim.
Spider bites.
Ooh, that's a good one. It's not spider bites.
I'm out of ideas then.
He's out.
So 15 people a year in North America die from this, but it sends approximately 15,000 to the hospital.
Correct. This is the time of year that it really starts to happen.
Sinuses.
No.
No allergies. No.
No. Well, allergies in that aspect, no.
Okay.
So there's a clue there.
But it's related to allergies in some way.
It can be.
Allergy to food?
Chad, golfing, no.
Oh, we got some. Oh, is it
Aspirin? No.
Peanut butter?
Fireworks? No, it's not fireworks.
Fireworks. I should do fireworks one of these times.
Is it aspirin?
It is not aspirin.
Not peanut butter, huh?
Not peanut butter. No. That's a higher number.
Shellfish.
It is not shellfish. So a favorite pastime of many Minnesotans in late spring go out to do this.
Ice fishing.
That's unfortunately gone at this time of year. Roses. That's interesting. Not roses.
Roses, not roses. Is it morel mushrooms? Because a lot of people go out hunting for morels this time of year.
It is not morels.
Oh, but is it mushrooms?
It is mushrooms.
So just mushrooms in general?
Yep. Mushrooms that people shouldn't eat. And they do.
Is it so they just go out in the forest and find some random fungus and eat it?
Yeah. Yep.
Like Mario?
Yes, and they think they will grow. But I mean, it's crazy.
Hey, Terrence, they have to rescue the princess. I mean, this is important stuff.
Yeah, it's true.
15,000 people, you guys, every year in North America end up in the ER or a clinic or something from eating a mushroom that they shouldn't. And like I said, it's a popular pastime here in Minnesota, as Matt said. Morel hunting is a big pastime for some people. And I remember when I was in junior high and high school, my stepdad at the time would take me out and he would have a 7-iron. That was his morel hunting 7-iron. And dude was like Tiger Woods with this thing. He would clip the morel and it would just end up in his bag that he would have open over here. So he'd clip it, catch it, clip it, catch it.
That's great. I never knew you used a golf club to harvest mushrooms.
Yeah.
Huh. No kidding.
Yep. Not everybody's. There's actually a device almost like a golf club that some people use, but mushrooms is this week's numero de los muertos.
Well, that's a good one. That's unexpected.
Make sure if you're hunting for mushrooms, know what a morel looks like, know what you're eating, and I
just want you to know you completely killed my plans this weekend.
I know, yeah, because they have a lot of morel mushrooms or a lot of mushrooms growing in the forests around Coral Gables.
Yeah, that was my, that's what I was all excited about, and now, I'm a little wary, to be honest.
Yeah, I would be. I'm sorry.
Right. You can go wild pig hunting
or lawn darts.
Lawn darts.
There's
darts always lawn darts.
That's true. Bocce ball, maybe.
There you go.
There you go. In traffic.
Bocce ball.
You could go bowling down the streets now.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, absolutely. So Terrence, here's a little bit of lightning round of some off the wall questions. If you could choose to hear the thoughts of one living person for 10 minutes, who would it be and why?
Of one living person, huh? Oh man, let me think here. One living person, Pope Francis, I think. Pope Francis.
Wow.
Okay.
That's a first,
Yeah, that's
and
a
I'm
first.
surprised.
Because you know what, like with the
I don't
modern
know.
world now, it used to be kind of like people like that were so separated from society that they just, you couldn't imagine them like sitting there like watching a soccer game or like putting their shoes on. They just seem to, exist on another level. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'd be interested. Is he like thinking about, why do they, drive on a parkway and park on a driveway? Or is he thinking like religious stuff? Is he thinking like about God?
I love it. Well, and he is. I think he has been just an amazing pope. I'm not Catholic, but all the things that he has done has really impressed me for a lot of the big things, like going and washing the feet of the people in the prison, and refusing to live in the palace and wear all the jewelry and the all of that stuff. He's kind of shaking things up.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if he's thinking about that stuff or if he's thinking about what's he gonna eat for dinner tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
or
why
if-
I'd want to hear his thoughts.
Or which episode he's on of Tiger King.
Of Tiger King.
I have to guess he's probably never seen it.
I'm gonna assume.
Yeah,
But that's why I'd want to know. We don't know. We're just
We
guessing.
don't know.
exactly.
Yeah. What is Pope Francis streaming?
So Terrence, if you were about to get into a fight, what soundtrack music would come on?
Oh, that's easy. Remember, it's Disco Science. It's the song from. Remember in the movie Snatch? Have you seen Snatch?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Remember when they take out the dogs to hunt the rabbit?
Yes.
That music.
Yes.
That's what I would want.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know that,
I'm drawing a blank on the song.
If you guys don't know it, later on, go on YouTube and just search for YouTube for Snatch rabbit hunting. Although careful, who knows what might come up, but it's hilarious.
Yeah. Or the
Yeah.
movie Snatch, Disco Science.
Yeah.
The song is called Disco Science.
Yeah, it's a great scene. I love
Yeah.
that.
Don't search snatch hunting.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
search that.
That might bring up some other things.
That's different.
Yeah, do not. So Terrence, choose one of the following. You could hit a home run as the starting pitcher. You could score a touchdown as a defensive lineman, or you could score a goal in a hockey game as the goalie.
Goal in a hockey game as a goalie.
Number one answer. That's
It
the
is.
most popular answer.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard to do, man. That's very
is.
rare.
And we have to add on. We keep meaning to add this into the list to score a coast to coast goal in a soccer game as the goalie, which is even more rare.
My answer hasn't changed.
Yeah, mine wouldn't either. In my entire life, I've probably seen 8 minutes in total of soccer, and that was 8 minutes too much for me. So.
I like soccer. I got into it when I lived in England for a little bit, and I got into it over there. But yeah, it's not passing up the goalie. There's no
Yeah. So Terrence, if you could give one piece of advice to a brand new premium cigar consumer, what would it be?
I would say trust your palate. Like smoke if somebody don't smoke something simply because people tell you, oh, that's what the cigar you should be smoking. Go out there and try different things and see what floats your boat and what doesn't, and go from there. I think that's the key thing. Is I think for beyond cigars, for everything, people a lot of times are like, oh, well, I'm not supposed to like this, or this isn't what's popular, or this is the supposedly tastes like this or whatever. Go out there and try different stuff and find what suits you.
Yeah. Same question, but if you could give one piece of advice to cigar retailers, obviously right now everything's in flux because of what's going on, but just for the brick and mortar cigar retailers that are out there during normal operations, what's the advice you give them most often?
Well, I would say engagement is the most important thing. I think if you're it's a very difficult environment for any retail business. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the days of just being able to kind of sit there and people come to you are less and less viable. And so you call the local Elks Club and get them down there for a meeting. Get out there and talk to your consumers. Have some sort of event that brings in new people. Whatever. Again, there's a million different ways to do things. And Dave Garofalo from Two Guys, he has a whole book on all sorts of things you can do to get people to come in your shop. I think those are the types of things that you need to be really thinking about, is how do I pull people in here and be proactive in that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Terence, now we're going to talk about notable smokables. We talk about each week. Garrett and I name off a couple cigars, and our guests, you're obviously welcome to join in. We talk about some cigars that we've smoked recently that just were interesting to us. It could be brand new to the market. It could be an old staple, just something that we picked up from our humidor recently or from a shop and smoked. One that I hadn't smoked since I think it first came out a few years ago was the Asylum made a sort of a companion cigar for Dragon's Milk Stout. The beer, and I smoked one of those from my humidor maybe it was just yesterday or within the last few days, and it's a really nice. It's a really nice cigar. It's got super intense flavors to it, but a really really nice cigar.
I had one of those at Nat Sherman when they first came out. I think a couple of years. I can't remember how long now. Time goes by so fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember really liking it. That was a great cigar.
Yeah.
For me, I just had a Tatuaje ME, and I forgot how great that cigar is.
Really is a good cigar. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, just tons of flavor, good flavor, great cigar.
Yeah. So Terence, obviously you smoke a lot of Aganorsa stuff, but you're also a consumer at heart. So is there anything interesting you've smoked recently that kind of caught your fancy?
I thought that the Aladino Reserve, is it the Reserve, the Corojo Reserve? I thought that was really very flavorful. I thought that was a really tasty cigar. I had one of those not too long ago. Yeah.
Oh, and Ray's got a good answer. This
one
of our viewers, Ray's saying the HVC 500. I agree 100%, Ray.
Yep.
Very, very good cigar.
Oh, delicious.
That's very good cigar. My only other one that I put on my list this week was one that I got 2 years ago, and I like this particular company stamps dates on the inside of their bands, and it's the Debonair Daybreak.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
And it was dated from I want to say April or May of 2018. So a couple of years age. Didn't hurt that cigar at all. Still had, a lot of flavor, great construction, very well made cigar.
And my last one is the Southern Draw Kudzu, not the Lustrum, but just the Kudzu, and that's just a great line.
Yeah,
and love it
very much, very much. Anything else on your recent smoking list that you liked, Terence?
I had a retailer had some old Casa Fernandez Miamis. I had one with the F looking label on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that smoked really well. It was very tasty.
Yeah. I still, somewhere buried in my humidor, I still have one of the old Maduros with that old band.
Yeah, no, they're smoking great.
So I'm gonna have to dig that out one of these days.
Yeah, unrelated, but I'll be right back.
So guys, for those of you watching and listening, give you an idea of some stuff that we have coming up next week on the 7th. This one's going to be a lot of fun, and I have to ask Garrett to move his hand so I can read the screen there. So coming up next week, I'm going to call this Quarantina Palooza because we're going to have, from separate locations, we're going to have some of the gang from Espinosa Cigars. We're definitely going to have Hector, and hopefully we're going to also have Jack Tarano and Eric Espinosa himself, all from separate locations on the show. and they have their wonderful festival every year that they call La Zona Palooza. So I thought it was only fitting to call next week's show Quarantina Palooza. So you will not want to miss that. The following week we'll be on a special night. Instead of Tuesday, we'll be on Monday the 13th with Cigar Coop himself, Will Cooper. And then a week after that, we're going to have on the 21st, Klaus Kellner from Davidoff. And then the week after that, Terence just mentioned Dave Garofalo from Two Guys Cigars and from Cigar Authority is going to be on the show. So we have some very cool stuff coming up over the next month and beyond. So Terence, give our listeners and viewers one final idea where they can find out more information about Aganorsa Leaf.
So you can check our website, aganorsaleaf.com, but also, more importantly, Instagram, Aganorsa Leaf, Facebook, Aganorsa Leaf. If you can follow us, we also have a Facebook group, Aganorsa Acolytes, which request to join. And we put out a lot of stuff in there too. And it's also a great opportunity. What I like to hear is feedback from our consumers. It's one of the biggest, our retail partners and consumers is how we drive our business. And so I always want to hear from them what they're smoking, what they're thinking about, what they enjoy. And it's a great opportunity to learn, but also to stay in touch and to give us ideas and feedback.
Absolutely.
Awesome. One I can't wait to see, and be able to participate in one of those events when all of this craziness is over. So I'm looking forward to coming to one of your events.
Absolutely. No, please. And that's another good reason to follow is that we'll announce those on our social media. And so you have the opportunity to know when they're coming up and yeah, maybe in the future we do a virtual one, not here. You never know.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
And like we say always too, with any of our guests, if you have a chance to try and you really enjoy the cigars, that our guests are a part of, and they're not in your brick and mortar shop, let them know. Say, hey, this is a great cigar. I enjoy it. I think it'll do well here, and advocate for the cigars that you like to your shop owners. That's where they get ideas. It's one thing for them to go to shows and, have all these guys talking about, their cigars and stuff, but the consumer is requesting a particular product. That goes a long way for a lot of these shop owners. So
that's the key thing. I mean, it's so much easier when you go into a place and they said, "Oh, we've had people asking about that." I mean, it's a much easier conversation than nobody's ever heard of this.
Yep.
Absolutely. Terence, thank you so much for spending some time with us and teaching us about Aganorsa Leaf and just spending some time with great conversation. We really appreciate your time tonight.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So guys, if you're watching and listening, as always, we thank you for spending time with us. If you have any questions, you can email us directly on howaboutthatcigar.com. You can also send us questions on our Facebook page. And until we see you next time, burn cigars,
not bridges.
Take care, guys. Thank you.